Hey everybody, Amber here from Woolly Mammoth Design and Kalamazoo Craft Core. I'm here today in my Kalamazoo home studio to talk to you about the Million Mask Challenge and making some sewn fabric masks for the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to start by saying that the masks that we can make at home are absolutely not safe for our medical professionals on the front lines. I know there's a huge mask shortage, and I'm super excited that everybody really wants to help out. I think that's amazing. But I'd like to ask you to do two things before you start making masks. The first one is I really want you to call our government officials and ask them to have our government start providing adequate medical equipment for the people on the front lines. The second thing I want you to do is to call the organization that you're hoping to donate to and make sure that the masks that you're choosing to make are something that they can use and that they want and they need. I really want us to avoid a situation where we mobilize and do a lot of great work trying to help out and then end up delivering a product that can't be used and ends up going to waste or causes more work for the people that are receiving it. So please call the people that you want to donate to and make sure that they can use your masks. The next thing I want to say is I started with a pattern from Instructables. Um, I actually tried 3 or 4 different patterns yesterday that I found on the internet. And I found that most of them had a pretty poor fit for adults, or they would fit one person but not another, which is kind of difficult since we need something that will fit well on a large range of people. So this is the pattern I started with, and I made some modifications to it that I'm going to show you right now. This is my actual pattern piece. I use a Pellon interfacing that's called Easy Pattern to make my pattern pieces, but you can just use printer paper and affix. Um, the pink lines on this pattern, my camera guy's gonna zoom in for you, are the original pattern from Instructables. I used the large number 2 pattern, and that's what you're seeing in pink. The black lines are the modifications that I made to the pattern. I added a little wing at the top here and another little one here, and then angled this side seam forward a half of an inch. The reason that I did this is that it actually makes it so that when the elastic fits over your ears, this top portion of the mask that goes over the bridge of your nose fits a lot more snugly to your face and allows you to eliminate the wire that they ask you to insert. This is really great for 2 reasons. The first one is that it cuts down on material cost and labor time, and the second one is that it makes it so that your end product is fully machine washable, which is really important for sanitation. So we went ahead and eliminated that wire portion of the pattern. Um, we've already talked about the fact that these masks are not medically certified. What our professionals actually need are the N95 masks. It's a special medical grade mask that seals tightly to your face and has a series of filters in it that help filter out particulate matter. We can't make those at home. So you might be wondering what the purpose is in making these masks ourselves. Well, there's a series of really good reasons why we want to do this. The first one is that if you wear one of these masks yourself, or a medical professional does, it will stop airborne droplets from landing directly on your face and mouth. That's great. We never want that in any circumstance. The next thing is that it can do is it can decrease the spread of your own germs. So if I were wearing a mask and I were to cough or sneeze, it would prevent my splatters from hitting my camera guy. So it can be good for you to wear a mask yourself anytime you're leaving the house or having to go around people right now. This also is a great way to stop yourself from touching your face. We all know we're supposed to wash our hands and not touch our faces. Wearing a face mask on the lower portion of your face can help make it easier to remember not to touch yourself. The other benefit to these masks over the paper ones that we would normally buy is that these are washable and reusable, so we're not generating any extra environmental waste. So that's some good reasons why we might want to go ahead and do this. So if you follow along with me, I'm going to step over here to my sewing machine. Oh, sorry, one more thing real quick. This is the finished mask that I made and what it's going to look like. And you can see when I put this on, it fits, real snugly right over the top of my face. It's easy and comfortable to wear. It covers the sides of my face and it covers my chin. So this is covering more and fitting a little better than a lot of the other mask patterns that I saw, which is why I ended up with this one as my end result. So let me show you how I made this. These are the materials. I already showed you my pattern piece. I have 2 pieces of lining, 2 pieces of exterior fabric, and 2 pieces of cotton quilt batting. The liner material that I used is a cotton and polyester blend, and part of the reason I wanted a blend for that is that the polyester fibers are a little bit more water repellent than your cotton. So these 3 things should be very breathable, very much machine washable, and slightly more water repellent than 100% cotton would be. I also have 2 pieces of 1/4 inch elastic that I have cut to a length of 4.5 inches. You can use really any type of elastic. You want to shoot for 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch so that it's not too bulky around the ear. And in a pinch, you could actually use hair ties or headbands, really any kind of elastic. Fold over elastic also works great. So let's get into making this real quick. I'm going to take my 2 lining pieces and put them together. You would normally do right sides together, but since this is a solid color, I don't need to worry about that. Whoop. Sorry, hold on just a second. Let's cut this off and try again. I'm going to go all along my curved seam here, if I can do this right. I'm using a contrasting thread right here so you can see what I'm doing. Normally I would use a matching thread, but for this we're going to go contrast so you can see it. Also, because this is a curved seam, when we go to flip it right side out, it's going to warp unless we grade our seam. So I'm going to take my scissors and about every 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to cut a little snip right up to my stitching line. Then I'm going to take my body fabric and put the right sides together. And I'm going to lay my batting on each outside of that. And go ahead and sew around this. If you can see this little notch that's cut out, that's actually because I've been practicing social distancing and I didn't quite have enough batting. So I ordered some online rather than going to a store. But this should work just fine for this mask. Going along my curve. And then I'm going to clip along the outside of this. I do want to let you know Joann Fabrics right now is offering $1.99 shipping on all online orders. So if you need any batting or fabric, they'd be a great place to order from right now. I'm going to open this piece out and open my lining out and kind of lay them on top of each other. If you're not a very confident sewer, this would be a good time to pin all the way around the outside of your 2 pieces. But I want to save some time for you guys watching at home, so I'm not going to pin. I'm going to start about 2 inches in from my corner here. I'm going to back stitch and then go ahead and go right up to my corner. I want to stop about 1/4 of an inch from the corner and put my needle down. And then I'm going to lift up the presser foot and pivot. Then I'm going to take my piece of elastic and I'm going to slide it in between my lining fabric and my outside fabric. And I want to scooch it up. Bear with us while we try to get this camera angle here. Right up against my line of stitching if I can. And then put my foot down. And I'm going to sew about halfway down this seam before I stop. Then I'm going to reach in between here and grab my elastic piece and pull it out and towards me. And then kind of curve it around and put it about 1/2 inch before the edge of my fabric. You can pin this in before you sew, but I find that because the elastic is short, it kind of warps the pins and it can be hard to sew that way. So I found that it was easier to just kind of like finagle this by hand. At my corner, I'm pivoting again. I'm gonna kind of like sandwich my pieces together and then continue along this top seam. I'm using about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm just using that edge of my presser foot as a guide. You kind of want to shoot for as small of a seam allowance as you can comfortably do on these. At my corner, so I'm going to pivot again, and we'll get our second piece of elastic in there. Scooching it up against the stitch line, halfway down the seam, and then I'm going to pull that other end of elastic through again. Kind of pay attention to making sure your elastic is flat in there so you don't have it twisted. And here we go. So now for our fourth side of this, this is the side we started on. We're going to continue down this seam. You can start to see down here this stitch line where I started. I want to stop about 2 inches from where I started and backstitch again. And then I'm going to cut my thread and pull this out. We need to leave this hole here so that we can turn it right side out. All right, now we've got our whole mask pretty much entirely sewn. But before we turn it right side out, we need to do a little bit of clipping to make sure that all of our corners can pop out and our curve can do what it's supposed to. So I'm going to start by cutting my corners off here so that we can poke them out well. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this curve as I did with the other one and snip along it. You want to get as close as you can to your stitch line when you do this, without actually cutting through it. You don't want to cut through your stitches. If you do, you can just, kind of stitch over it, but ideally you'll just snip along here. These scissors are from Fiskars. You can also order them from Joann's online. I really like them for clipping along seams like that because they have a much smaller cutting edge. So now we're going to turn this right side out. And kind of push it all through the hole. And then I'm just going to kind of massage it out with my fingers so that everything will end up laying flat. I'm going to kind of push my thumb into those corners to scooch them out to a nice point. If you want really perfect pointed corners, you can stick a longer tipped pair of scissors in there and kind of gently push. And that'll help get them to lay flat. And then this is our face mask. And what we're left with is this little hole here that needs to be sewn up. You can pin this before you sew, or you can just kind of like finger press it and get it to lay flat. I'm going to go ahead and change my bobbin real quick and my thread so that we have a matching color, so that this looks really nice from the outside. And again, I just want to say that there are a lot of different types of patterns for these masks online right now. And I did compare 4 or 5 of them yesterday before I landed on this and found that this was the best coverage, the best fit. And I felt like it was pretty good in terms of filtration with that batting in the middle. You could use a different type of batting. You could put felt in here if you didn't have cotton batting, or in a pinch you could use an additional 2 layers of fabric, but you really do want more than just the outside and inside. You want at least 3 or 4 layers to make sure that, oh, hold on, we've got a little issue here. Let's see if I can figure out what's going on with my machine. Looks like I just had some thread caught. I think we're good. Let's try again. And I want to try to get as close to this edge as I can so that I'm Hold on, guys. Not sure what my machine is doing. Monkey with the tension a little. While I work on this, our camera guy is going to zoom in on a little contact info for us here. If you have any questions about this pattern, I've made quite a few of these at this point, and I would be very happy to answer any questions or help anyone that needs it. Let's see if I can get my machine to behave. Apparently I can't. Let me just show you a finished mask. So on that previous one that we were doing, we had done everything except for sew up our hole. So that's what I did here. And you can see I just gently top stitched about 1/4 inch from the edge there. And that sewed up that opening. And then this is a fully finished, completely machine washable cotton mask that can be reused multiple times. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out either through Instagram or Facebook or email, and we're glad to help with any mask production you want to do.